one of the things I really wanted to touch on was you have this Hawaiian healing poem that kind of like brings you back to a reset, but also just like purifies your mind in a sense. So I'd
Mhm.
love you to break that down for someone hearing it for the first time and maybe share like how it's helped you in the process as well.
Absolutely. It's called Hooponopono. And I was reintroduced to it, oddly enough, when I had the book. I read it years ago, downloaded it again. Something just told me that I needed to read this book again. Actually, it was the audio version. And I started listening to it when my husband and I were on a plane to Hawaii.
Mm.
And this was last year. And it's an ancient Hawaiian healing practice. And it's four phrases that you say. You say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. So you're saying the first part is I love you. And you can I don't from what I understand, and because I was privileged to interview Dr. Joe Vitale on my podcast, and he's the one that brought this to the forefront. And it doesn't, the order that you say it in doesn't really matter so much. I like to say, I love you first, because what you're doing is you're acknowledging the divine. You're acknowledging God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the universe. So you're acknowledging your love. And then you say, I'm sorry. And this is where it trips a lot of people up, because they're like, well, I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Well, you had a negative thought. You chose to have a negative thought. So that is kind of, a mistake or whatever. It doesn't mean that you're a horrible person. It's just, you're just acknowledging that you did something that was more an ego instead of consciousness, right? So you're saying, I'm sorry. And then you say, please forgive me. Self-explanatory. You're asking for forgiveness. And then you're saying thank you. Because by saying thank you, you're expressing your gratitude
Mm.
to divinity. So what it does is, so I first started using it because you asked me how it's helped me. I first started using it because I still have some episodes of PTSD that stems back from, I'm sure, my childhood. My biological father died at 18 months old. My brother died when I was 12, going on 13. And so there was that's pretty significant trauma for a child. And so I still would have periods of anxiety. So that's when I first started really using it. And I would just start saying, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I would just start repeating it in your mind over and over and over. And what I noticed, I haven't had an anxiety attack in over 18 months, and it lasted less than 30 seconds because of Ho'oponopono. And what happens with me is, and like I said, I haven't had one in a long time, because when these thoughts come into my consciousness, I use the Ho'oponopono prayer, and it eliminates it right away. But what happens with me is I get these thoughts that somebody's going to die. Okay. And because now I have a son, he's 23 years old now. It's usually him, right? Because that's like every mother's worst nightmare. And so it'll come into my consciousness, and I just start repeating that prayer over and over and over. What it is said that it can really do is it helps clear generational trauma, even within your DNA code. And so I like to just start my day with that prayer, because it sets the tone for the day. But throughout the day, anytime I have a negative thought or something that could potentially send me into anxiety, I just start saying that prayer, and it erases it. It's gone. And the more you practice it, the less, we can, the great thing about this work, Dan, is that you can change your subconscious mind. And so by doing things like practicing Ho'oponopono, you're helping to rewire those neurons that fire in your brain. And so it's just another tool, one of many, many tools out there. I I resonated with it. I touched on this earlier about miracles, and we have so many miracles if you're open to seeing them. To me, that was a miracle that I forgot what this book, Zero Limits, was about. Totally forgot about it. I was like, oh, I just need to check it out again. I start listening to it. And he's talking about Hawaii. Here I am flying to Hawaii, spent 2 weeks in Hawaii listening to this book. And then I like bought his course. And what's great about Joe Vitale is he's got these courses that are like $19, like they're very, very inexpensive, where you can dive into it even further than what the book gives. And so I just spent 2 weeks in Hawaii, just living and breathing that. And the thing about this work is you have to keep practicing it every single day, and that's why a lot of, self-help, personal development coaches and writers and authors and podcasters, sometimes people give us a bad rap. And it's only because you spend a couple $1,000s, you go to a conference, you hear some great information, you come home and you forget about it and you don't apply it. Like this work, you have to apply it to your life. You have to practice it. And if you practice it every single day and just commit to 90 days, 90 days is nothing. 90 days flies by like that.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you choose, because there's so many modalities, just make a commitment to yourself that you're going to practice this every day for 90 days. And I'm telling you, you will experience miracles in your lives and your life will change for sure. It's going to happen.